Okay, and now we definitely are live, so thank God. I'm not Catholic, but I'll do the thing anyway. So, finally live here with my guest that we've been trying to do this for a few weeks now. Really excited about it, and usually the ones you really want to do, you always have the biggest problem. So that means they're worth the deal. So here we are, Fletch Entertainment Network. Thank you everybody for tuning in, whether it's live or on demand. We're of course on Facebook and YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and check us out for all kinds of shows we got coming up in the future. And this coming Monday is the big finale for college football, and we're doing our college football corners final show at 7 o'clock. As most people know, I'm a Ohio State fan, and Randy is a Randy is a Bama fan, and it's Ohio State and Bama, so it couldn't get any better than this. So only thing we're not doing is doing it live from a Roosters or something. But other than that, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we are here today with Daniel Witherell. You can see him on the screen. Dan, how you doing?
Doing well.
Excellent. Good to see you. Dan, our families go way back, real far, all the way back to junior high school, church, and all kinds of things between. So we've known each other, I'd say, 40-something years, I guess. I've been in high school 30 years, so 35 years, I guess. So you are a very interesting person, and for many reasons, but today's topic is definitely going to be on your service in the United States Army, which I definitely thank you for your services. I do all veterans we've had on the show. So far, you're veteran number 2. Mark Gow is number 1. I know you know him. You guys graduated same class, same school. And if things go the way I want to do, I'm going to have a number of class of 86 people on this show. So that's a heck of a class. So let's start from when you're out of high school, you graduate. At what point did you go into the Army out of high school? You graduated May or June of 86. When did you actually enter the Army?
Signed up early. Signed up, I think, early summer, but then didn't head off to basic training until October.
Okay. So, and then your basic training was where?
Fort Benning, Georgia.
Fort Benning, Georgia. Okay. And so, at what point were you presented in some manner? Exactly tell the story. When did you become where it was some kind of a possibility that you could potentially get into the honor guard? Because I think that's what it's called. It's all under the honor guard, right? Is that correct?
It is now. Yeah.
Okay.
The old guard, the honor guard, 3rd Infantry, changed names a few times since then, but.
Okay. So where were you at?
It was during basic training. They had a recruiter from the old guard come down and then explain, the ceremonial unit and doing stuff. Of course, they hype it up a lot more, like anything, to get people to join. So they asked if anybody's interested, and then we applied. Then at some point they came back and said, "Okay, you're approved. This is officially your duty station once you get out." So okay. Halfway through, probably basic training.
So did you know what it was when you filled out the application, I guess, or whatever? Did you know exactly what it was?
Not entirely.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting. I guess you just, sign up to see what the deal is. So you signed up, you're halfway through basic training. So you finish basic training, and then what happens?
Then we got deployed to our, because we went over Christmas, we actually got a early leave over Christmas. So a lot of guys took time off. Fortunately, I stayed stateside. We had a lot of guys going to Korea that didn't get a break after basic training to have some time before being deployed. But basically, within a couple of days, was up in Fort Myers, Virginia, right outside Arlington National Cemetery. Actually, they border each other. They had a new man training, a 2-3 week program, kind of getting, you set up and your uniform and all the stuff you need to know, the basic stuff you need to know for being in the unit.
Okay.
Especially uniform.
Okay. I will say real quick, we have someone kind of tuning in here. You can see Michelle Kiffin, who you...
Hey, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm sure you remember her, Michelle Randall. Michelle, yeah. She saying, hey, she obviously knows who you are, so And then she has a son who's leaving for the Army basic on Monday. I think I saw that on the internet. So congratulations. I'm sure that's happy and sad all together. Sad because see your kids go away, which I have a number of years where I have to deal with that because I started late. But happy because get to see your kid go and serve for your country. So I'm sure that's awesome. Michelle, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you can stick for the whole show. And so you get to, where do you go when you get to the actual places? I mean, I'm sure it's Arlington Cemetery is where you actually went, or did Honor Guard do something different before you got there?
Well, once you after the new main training, then you're assigned to the company. There's 5-6 different companies.
Oh, okay.
I actually went to a company which was at Fort McNair, which is in Washington D.C. It's across the river from Fort Myer. Also on that post, it's a small post. Like when we did our 2-mile run, we actually had to lap around a little bit. It's such a small post, but it had the Army War Colleges there. A lot of colonels, generals' homes are along there as well. So there's quite a bit over there. But the idea was, is if something happened at the Capitol, we were on the same side of the river as the Capitol, so we didn't have to worry about crossing bridges and such. But
Okay.
I think now they've all been moved off Fort McNair, and then everybody's on Fort Myer now.
So was there a point, I mean, when they assigned you, did they assign you the tomb right away, or was that afterwards, or?
That was afterwards. I was at an Alpha company for most of 1987. I did funerals in Arlington Cemetery as well as off post. We did some on post in Arlington, some off cemeteries, did some firing parties. Did color team for a short while. The unique thing about Alpha Company was that they do the colonial uniforms.
Okay.
But I was in 4th Platoon, which didn't do the colonial uniform. So I was around those guys, but I didn't actually do any of the colonial things. So around November of '87, they were coming out with the volunteers to try out the crewman and soldier. And so I reported on December 7th, 1987. Reported down to the tomb.
Okay. So how much time, once you got to the tomb, training and learning, we'll get into all that for people who aren't sure or aren't familiar completely with what goes on. We have a nice video that Dan's going to walk us through. But all the training that goes through for you to learn everything, how long did that go on before you actually did your first, I guess, would say live guard or post, I guess?
Yeah, it's actually a book. Before I got out, I got a logbook that I recorded all of my activities while I was
wow.
So reported December 7th, 87. Took my first guard change. Not for a while, actually. February of '88. So
okay.
About 3 months.
About 3 months, which is probably a lot of time when you're thinking this is the only thing you're doing for how many days per week, training and all that stuff, I'm sure, versus like, your civilian life where 3 months just kind of goes by 8 to 5, blah, 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 So do you want to do a video now, or do you want to have any more before we get into showing them changing of the guard, or what do you think?
I'll talk about like some of the initial stuff that you're learning down there. Basically the uniform itself, there's a lot higher standard at the teams than the rest of the unit. Especially the shoes are standard issue shoes that are polished. Most of the rest of the unit, especially nowadays, just have the fake shine, the chloroform, or whatever the
Right.
But so yeah, the shoe itself, standard issue, but then we have the soles built up. So that way it gives a little more strength, a little more, has nothing to do with heat or cold. It doesn't keep your feet any warmer. So there's something going around about that. It's for that. But so then you have the steel added. most, I think, the ceremony units have a little smiley face I added on mine there. So
Okay.
the code piece, the heel. I think most of all the honor guard units for different services all have something similar. Ours is a lot more than on the inside of the heel is another plate for when you do the heel taps.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
So it takes a long time to get that polished up to standard. All your brass, basically everything comes coated, and you have to strip off the lacquer.
Oh wow.
And get that all polished up. So you got the buttons, any metals. I was new enough where I didn't have a lot of metals, so that wasn't as big a deal.
Yeah.
So just the time it takes that. You actually test your own uniforms. And the companies, as well as down at the quarters in Arlington, that you have, there's steam pressing, big industrial steam pressing.
Sure.
So you're pressing your uniforms and making sure the seams are straight and everything. So a lot goes into the uniform, as well as knowledge of the cemetery, people buried in the cemetery, unit history, or just any other military type history that is determined to be high speed, as we call it, that would impress others.
I did read where at the time, whenever they made the little thing that I read, that there were some the guards had to know a whole lot of things that were you could possibly be asked at any time. One of them was any one of the 300 different people that are buried, and so that's definitely quite that. It was interesting. I also saw the video where they said a kind of a new guy to the guard, which you would have been when you first started, obviously. It could be about an 8-hour deal on getting his uniform ready because he's not as gifted and good at it, because they had to practice, I guess, or whatever. But after you're done for a certain time, that could get down to, I think the guy said maybe more like a 4 or 5 hours or something like that, or maybe 2. I can't remember. But because they measure up to there's an eighth of an inch or a 16th of an inch where the medals have to be and other things have to be that you put on the uniform, and they all measure where they have to actually locate. Is that correct?
Yeah, you have like a little micrometer. It's almost like a sewing up and kind of measuring tool, but yeah, you use that, and things have to be lined up properly and correct distances apart. And very.
Now, I can honestly say that if I had joined the military and got into this, which I would never got in, that I would have been hurting big time, because we all know how I looked when I dressed and stuff like that. Now, you were definitely a very meticulous type person anyway, so I wondered if this just kind of fit right into your wheelhouse, or did you find it extremely a tedious and hard task to capture as yourself?
For the most part, it was, in my wheelhouse. Some things got a little I think, at times got a little bit like, okay, this is ridiculous, but it depends if the senior guys liked you or not too. I mean, if they didn't like you for some reason, then they gave you a harder time. But I'm a likable guy, so they could be mad at me. Absolutely.
Yeah, the one guy on the video had said something about having things, because they had somebody look at everything, because I guess you pass inspection inside, but then you pass inspection when you're going to the actual guard stand, or the stand, I guess. But so we'll talk about that too. So trying to think if I had, I don't have any other questions before we do the video. You have anything else more you want to say, or?
No, we can roll.
Okay, so we're going to fire this up here. So what we're going to see here now is a changing of the guard at Arlington National Cemetery. I'm going to get it rolling, and I might pipe the sound down here just a little bit. So that's the guy that's actually on regular duty, right?
Yes. So one thing to note is that the weapon, because you're guarding the tomb, the weapon should always be on the outside of the guard. That's why it's always on the shoulder, away from the tomb.
Facing the people, right?
Yes.
Now, is it? I notice all these people start standing up. Is that because of the bells, or is it time of day kind of a thing, or is it because the changing's happening?
Probably the changing is happening. There's a Arlington National Security or Arlington Cemetery security guards. They're typically the ones that will open the chain up for
for this guy. Now, the first thing I noticed with this guy is the walk. That he is not bobbing up and down. You know, he has that. And is that something that is really hard to perfect, I guess to say, or that to walk like that? And
the glide is, as much as you practice, you get it, or hopefully, if not,
right.
it's a problem. But it's part of the training where you know, like anything with repetition, you get that down.
Yep. I'm going to pause that for a second while you're talking.
Okay. What's funny actually with that glide is you'd find yourself just being out places and walking. Actually, even nowadays, I'll be somewhere and I'll just kind of go into that glide. It just feels cool.
Now, you showed the shoes and the metal on the side of the heels and the inside, and that's for they call it the tapping, you know,
Yes.
so when you guys make a certain turns, you smack the heels together to get that nice clacking metal sound, which that guy just did right there. So this gentleman is getting ready to introduce basically the fact that they're going to do a change of the guard and kind of lay out the somewhat rules. And this happens how often during the daytime on a regular sun in the summer, I guess the time of year this is.
In the summer, from Memorial Day through Labor Day, summer hours are cemetery opens at 8 and closes at 7. I think usually 7 to 8 is always an hour. So it's just before the cemetery opens, and then it's every half hour.
So when the cemetery is closed, do they still have a guard on duty, right?
Always a guard. They may not be like for night hours is usually a 2-hour shift.
Right.
And we could be in, you know, the combat uniform, or it just depends on weather. We had some wool uniforms that we wore during the winter hours with a parka and stuff. So
Okay.
it's not the formal uniform that you see during the day.
Okay. And obviously, well, there's no crowd. There's no need for what this guy's getting ready to do, talk to everybody, because there's nobody there and stuff like that. So we'll get this thing fired back up, because this is really interesting. There's no doubt.
You want to pause real quick there?
Oh, yeah.
So one thing, whoever's changing, the relief commander or assistant relief commander, even senior, once you get your badge, you're considered a senior person there. You can even do a guard change if you're a senior badge holder. So even if like the one here is a staff sergeant or a sergeant, E5, he could actually be a guard, but he would have to have a uniform that does not have any rank on it.
Okay.
So any of the guards you see walking will not have a rank on there, regardless of what rank they are.
Okay.
And somewhat, I think the story behind that one is that way you are not outranking any of the unknowns.
Okay. Yeah. I think I remember reading that. Even though not sure what their rank was, that way there's no chance of being outranking them because you don't show your rank.
Correct.
Okay. Good to know.
We'll take it.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Get it started again. So there's 3 things in front that he's looking at right now that are on the ground, and then the tomb is the big thing right in front of him that's erected up, correct?
Correct.
So the 3 things in front, what are those? Are those the other wars besides the World War I?
Correct. The World War I is the big one, the sarcophagus. That actually started out as like a lower level, like the part that's kind of built up maybe a few feet off the plaza level. And then the big rectangular sarcophagus was added later on. So
Okay.
that's just one enormous piece of marble. I used to know dates when stuff was added and whatnot.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's all on the wiki.
Yeah.
So it's all. So this guy here, what'd you call him? The master.
relief commander.
He is inspecting everything on the new guard that's going to change and take over the post, right?
Right.
So he looks like he's white gloving everything. I mean, that's pretty standard, I'm sure.
Yes.
So I know we had talked to each other a few weeks ago, and I actually went and found a video where somebody failed, and nothing demonstrative happened except the guy ends up walking away instead of getting brought down to the pad. But so he never said what he failed on and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm. I got to sit down once.
Oh, is that what it's called? Okay. So this guy, is he looking at his shoes now? And like he looks at his dress, looks at his shoes, expects his gun. Is that?
Do the weapon first, and then the uniform.
Okay.
Most of it's the formality. It's the ceremonial. I mean, everything is like there's 2 rifles that you alternate, and you come down, you put it in the racks, and nobody messes with it. Nobody's doing anything with it before, but you still should make sure nothing is wrong.
And those uniforms are made of wool, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good tidbit for those nice 98-degree summer days out there in DC, right?
There are summer blue uniform, but the material does not press as well.
Okay.
So that's why we keep we do it like there's liners inside. We cut out the lining. There's so much you do underneath to get it to hold that press. And
right.
a lot of times those lines, if you press it, you'd see those lines on the outside. So we just take all that out.
Now
usually behind all of your metals and stuff, you actually have like a piece of cardboard that it kind of mounts to on the inside to kind of help keep that smooth appearance.
Okay.
As well as with that around the waist where your belt is, like those rubber kind of waistband you can wrap around belly and snap them in. So that's like maybe a 6 to 8 inch thick or top to bottom around your waist that helps to kind of smooth out. We always call them flat man belt, but
now I noticed
smooth out your waist.
I noticed in this right at this time, the guy when the gentleman said forward, and the guy on the mat was already on that end. Is that all completely timed out by the 21 steps and the 21 seconds and all that, whatever it is? Does that work out that way every time, or?
It not necessarily. Sometimes it's just worked out that way.
Okay.
Other times the guy on the mat has to make sure he is at the other 2 can't come down until the one guy is at their end of the.
So if they're ready and he's not down, they'll wait till he comes down.
Yes.
To that side of the mat. Okay, excellent.
Hope it's not too long of a period that you're. Yeah, you might shorten your count. You might shorten the 21 seconds and all that to make sure you're down there by the time he's done with his inspection and ready to come down. Just so that way you're not standing there for a minute almost waiting for the guard to be where it needs to be.
Yeah, the one video I watched, the guy was saying it's a pretty big deal getting your uniform ready. He said, but these gentlemen, the unknowns, sacrifice their lives, so it's not too much to sacrifice out of your own time to do that. But I thought it was a pretty interesting take on it.
Yes. So yeah, pass under orders, post orders remain as directed, orders acknowledged. That's what the 2 guys say.
Right. And the orders obviously never change.
Now for our last guard change, if you want to pause it here for a moment.
Oh, I'll get to it real quick. Go ahead.
So sometimes the commander might, mention this is so-and-so's last guard change or something like that.
Oh.
And then, like if I was coming off, I said it's for the last time. Post orders remain as directed.
Okay.
So,
okay. It's interesting.
Little liberty in what we do. I can't say what we're allowed to do, but what we do.
Did you ever? I know you did this for 21 months of your time was at the Guard. Is that correct?
Just shy of 21 months.
Were you ever the individual that did the change, or came out and performed the inspections and all that, like that guy?
I did a few at the very end.
Okay.
and they didn't go well.
You didn't have anybody jumping the chains or anything, did you? Or?
No, just
Okay.
nervous and all that kind of, like anything, you know, like anything new, you're nervous and you're like, so.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's a overwhelming responsibility too. Yeah, you know the enormity of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Obviously, you know, in addition to everything else. So, let me get it fired back up. I remember you showing me pictures upon pictures of your life at the tomb and stuff, and I had no idea what you were doing. It was when you came home from leave, I think, or when you were home for good. I can't remember. But I was just overwhelmed. I'd never known what the tomb was or any of this, you know, and so it was fascinating. And then, you know, watching this video and reading stuff, you know, knowing I was going to hopefully do this interview.
You want to pause it there real quick?
Yeah. Whoopsie. Right there.
If you know on the mat, notice there on the mat as well as when they show the plaza, you can see, like, you know, from the 21 steps, you know, everybody's stride's slightly different. You can kind of see the marks on the mat where those steps are being taken, as well as on the plaza. I guess the metal onto the is marble, granite.
I think it's marble.
Okay. Well, I know the tomb is marble. I think the ground.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Where the mat is, yeah, that might be granite.
Rust spots where they walk.
I read about that. I wonder if I can bring it back a little bit where it shows right there. Yeah. There you go. So yeah, all that comes from the number of times they walk around back and forth, and that stuff kind of comes off of the metal, the clickers, and the bottom of the shoes, right?
Yep. Now the mat itself, I think it's Memorial Day. Every Memorial Day morning, they replace the mat, so that's replaced once a year.
Oh, okay.
At least at that time.
Nice.
Yeah. All my knowledge is mostly from 30 years ago, so keep that in mind. Some things are different nowadays, but I'll go into some of the how often you're down there kind of stuff in a little bit. But
have you ever does your wife ever found you sleepwalking around the house marching?
She says no.
Okay, just wondering, you know. Okay, we'll get it going again here. I mean, as many times as you did this, and for as long as you did it, it would make perfect sense if you woke up sometime asleep and did this, you know, hopefully without the 30-06 or whatever that is. But now the way these guys glide is just amazing. The way they glide is amazing. I can't get over it. Such precision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other walk, we call that bebopping. Where you kind of
right. You never realize people do that. Exactly. I mean, in regular life, you do it, you know, but when you see these guys, then you really realize, wow, it's funny. Not funny, but interesting. And how often did you get a haircut? Was it like every 2 or 3 days when you're in duty?
Well, for us, because our rotation is every 3 days. That day before we went, actually it's funny because we went over to the Marine Corps exchange and they had a barber there that we went to the Marine Corps exchange to get our haircuts.
Okay.
Which were free for us, and we would tip the barber and stuff, but they were free for us.
So we'll get back to the screen here, but that's extremely interesting stuff there. So you did that. Geez, who knows how many times you did that for 21 months, obviously. So, but it would be like you to have that figured out already in the math. But
well, in my book, I think I have it here. Before I wrote it down. I thought I had a tally written down somewhere. No, I know I counted at some point. I can't see it right now.
No problem. You can always add it to the comments of the video if you find it, you know, because it'll be on Facebook and YouTube and all that. So
some discussion. There's a Tim Guard Facebook page and stuff, and you know, people will mention stuff about what's going on here. I have it right here. Take a picture of the book and put that in.
Sure. So, do you have other things you wanted to hold in front of the camera at all? I know you had some stuff next to you, or.
Well, I had the shoes.
Oh, right. Okay. I wasn't sure if you.
I spent 2 last minute. There's still a little shine on there. My camera there.
Okay. So did you have to shine the metal too? You were saying those the metal for the tapping and all that.
There's a prey gloss. Like you shine the shoe part, but then the sole part, you would actually use a prey gloss, just kind of a shine kind of thing we would put on that, which you would just put over the metal as well.
Okay.
So
do you have a memorable moment from being in the tomb for the 21 months, whether it doesn't, whatever the moment is, something either while you were on guard or while you were maybe off guard or something, or maybe more than one memorable moment? I'm sure you have a number of things you could talk about, but
one cool one was whenever there's like the big foreign dignitaries will come and let's see. Got a tally sheet here. So yeah, like so summer hours are every half hour from 8 to 7, and then winter hours are every hour from 8 to 5.
Okay.
So, and that's just because the volume of people in the summer, and you got a lot of wreath ceremonies, but it's the volume of people that you get, the more guard changes in.
So now, when they're doing the guard change in the summer and it's every half hour, does everybody have to kind of get out of the way to let the next group in for the next one, or is it just people coming and going?
A lot of it people coming and going. A lot of it just the tour group.
So there's like a tour group.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's a group laying a wreath, like a school, there's whatever size group that they have.
Okay.
For those groups coming through, and then just people that are just meandering through.
Okay.
I don't think they necessarily have anybody, okay, you need to leave now. I mean, you can stay through a few guard changes if you want to, but
right. Okay. Yeah.
Your groups they see it once and they move on.
Okay. Go over to the hot dog stand. So, getting back to the memorable moment.
So this one was, so there's always a guard on post. So a lot of times they have, if it's a joint service, you might have, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. There's actually not a guard for the Coast Guard. Most people may not realize that. They have a unit there as well. They each have a platoon, I think a 3x6 platoon, kind of like come up the front steps along the left and right side of the main tomb there. They come up the steps. And then up as you're facing the tomb, because actually where we're at is the backside. The front of the tomb actually faces out towards DC.
Right.
So
okay.
The mat is actually on the backside. So as you're facing out to the left side, usually the dignitary will come up that way. And I was actually on post when Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister Britt, came through.
Nice.
And our General Hilbert at the time, he was escorting her, and then they did the wreath, and he's kind of explaining stuff to her. Then he kind of points towards me, the guard, saying stuff. And it's funny, our colonel at the time was kind of staying between, and just kind of look on his face. He looks at me, looks at the general, and kind of jumps back out of the way. So it was kind of cool, my experience with Margaret Thatcher there.
So you were the actual guard on the walk when she came to do that.
Well, we're in the box. Once those ceremonies happen, you stay.
Oh, a little different. Okay. So yeah, because
you got the come up the steps. You have the U.S. Army band coming from the other side, so you're not. I forgot at what point you actually go in the box, but you could like in the summer you could be up in there for longer than your half hour, just depending on how long that ceremony is taking.
So if she wasn't there, you would have been, but because you were not on the mat, because she was there to do a wreath thing or something, you said? Yeah. I did see a video of it looked like Boy Scout, Girl Scouts bringing a wreath to one. So that does answer a question on that. How often, is it typically people that they just want to do it, or is it because there's some kind of their veteran family kind of a thing or something, or why they do these things? Or
any group can sign up to do it.
Okay.
You have to schedule it out. Obviously, there's the scheduling, and the wreath they're all delivered down early at morning. So there's a little lobby we have that they're all situated and ready to go whenever the time comes. But you could have between half an hour guard changes, you can have maybe 2 or 3 wreath ceremonies.
Okay.
So, and usually the guard that just came down will be the guard doing that, or some of the newer guys will they'll start doing those. Funny one actually is when I did one for Dayton Christian. And it was the 8th grade group, so it was actually Paul Burkhart.
Oh, okay.
Group. I said, "Oh, you all know Paul Burkhart?" He goes, "Yeah, he won." I know where he was at the time, but they all, if he went even, but they all, "Yeah, we know Paul." I said, "Yeah, I know. My brother's dating his sister." And
yeah, okay. That would have been back in those days. They weren't married yet. Absolutely. Interesting. Yeah. That's neat. Yeah.
That's the basic training at that point, possibly.
Small world.
Yeah.
Mark Gow, his interview, he's, I think, somewhere in, I think it was the first Iraq war, and he's somewhere trying to use a telephone, and he's standing behind a guy that he grew up with, had no idea he was there until the guy turned around. Small world, you're in Iraq, and you're standing next to a guy that's from the same place you are. So, small worlds, those are always neat stories, no doubt.
Another one of that was before I came down to the tomb, and a buddy of mine in Africa, he was talking on the phone. He said something about Joey. I said, "Joey who?" And he goes, "Joey Skoski." I said, "It was my cousin from Massachusetts. He is was friends with my cousin in Massachusetts."
Wow. Small. The world is small. Believe it or not, it's amazing. So when you were done with the tomb, were you done with the military? Because you went in for 3 years, correct?
Active for 3, yes.
So is that when your time was done for being active, or did you do something else before you got out and started going to Wright State and all that?
Yeah, basically that wrapped. I had enough leave saved up. I actually got out like a month early. PCS exited the service. Yeah, about a month ahead of my actual end of the 3 years.
Okay. Great. Let me see. I know we talked a little bit off screen. Just wanted to make sure. So there is, as of July 4th, 2020, there are 683 what are called the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier Guard Identification Badge. This is the 3rd least awarded qualification badge in the entire Army, which means it's somewhat on the rare side. They don't just pass it out a whole lot. And you are the recipient of one of those badges. Your number is
334.
So tell us about when you found out you were going to get that and how that all went down.
Part of, like, so you start as a new man at the tomb, and then there's different levels of advancement, I guess. Part of, first you're qualified to be outside. Once you get to that point, then usually what you do at the like 10 till, a quarter till of every guard change, all the new guys will ask the senior badge holders, or any badge holder that is scheduled to walk, you'll ask them for that walk. So a specialist porter may have this walk. Now there was at least 2 others with me, I think, most of the time. So you're competing with other guys to get these walks. And so in order to earn it, you would have to have some kind of high-speed knowledge or something to impress the who you're asking the walk for. So that's how you kind of start getting outside. And then it gets to the point where you're on full rotation, where you're not a badge holder yet, but you are you're on the scheduled rotation of walks. So there is, continue on your uniform, because for the final badge sets, there is, other badge holders obviously would grade your performance outside, would grade your uniform, as well as your knowledge. There's a written test. I think at the time we had, it's like 100 questions, which out of like 300 knowledge points is what your study packet is. You have to, score whatever it was on 100 of those questions. So at that point, then you get your orders for your badge, and then you're awarded that. So
okay. So is that, I'm sure people that stick around, because I guess there's some people who start it and then they just don't cut the mustard to to be there very long. Kind of like Navy SEALs in a way, where they have a high dropout rate. At one point, I'm sure you got to where you're like, okay, this is a goal that I'm going to try to get to that. Is that kind of the last thing to obtain? Is that badge as far as achievements or whatever?
I mean, it's a mark to go for. A lot more is just the personal pride of that you're doing your job the best that you can.
Sure.
It's called the Sentinel's Creed is a poem creed that you need to memorize as part of your overall knowledge. And line 6 of that is my standard will remain perfection. So you're constantly striving for that purpose of honoring the unknowns.
Sure.
In all those, 'cause I mean, there's the unknowns there, but there are, even in Arlington Cemetery, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other unknown markers, as well as worldwide. Actually, this year, it's 1921, was when the World War I internment happened. So this is the 100th year anniversary of the World War I internment.
So that's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted, if you could, explain, exactly, in whatever details, the process, how they selected and all that, and what is actually at the Tomb of the Unknown as far as, whom, because we know they're unknowns. Because, when not knowing anything at some point, my thought was anybody that's an unknown, that's where they bury them. And that's not the case. It's a specific thing that's happened. So if you would, go through that for people for sure.
As detailed as I can get now.
Right.
Like World War I, the identification process of individuals was definitely not what it was today.
Right.
So there were a lot of unknowns throughout Europe from the wars there. So they had France especially, but there's cemeteries there that have multiple, not thousands of unknown soldier markers. My knowledge, and then I think Edward F. Younger was selected to, I think they exhumed a few, several bodies to be picked from. I'm sure these stories are out there online, but
yeah, they are
more detailed. But he was selected to pick the one to represent all the unknowns to be interred in Arlington. And my understanding is it was a whole body. It wasn't like the remains. It was like the full body of the soldier.
Okay.
My understanding is what remains there in Arlington. And then, so that was in 21. And World War II and Korea were done at the same time as a double internment for both of those. Similar with that was World War II being, you had the European and Pacific wars. There was a few from each picked. Then those two representatives came down, then somebody picked between those two.
Okay.
And I think the other one was buried at sea. The one that wasn't selected was buried at sea, I believe. And then there was, with the Vietnam, there was a lot of pressure to inter somebody from the Vietnam War. At that point, identification processes are a lot more advanced. DNA, I think, was kind of coming into the picture, or even somewhat after that, they were able to be able to identify soldiers. So there wasn't a lot to pick from, a lot of remains to pick from that. But just from pressure to inter somebody from the Vietnam War, some remains were selected and put in, which were later identified. Of course, his name escapes me now. It was a pilot, Air Force pilot that was shot down. We saw something interesting on that, some more details behind it. But there's a lot of interesting background on all of that. And then it was selected not to put anything else in its place.
Right.
In the place of this place. So there's only actually 3 physical remains of unknowns.
Was the Was the Vietnam Unknown, was it pulled out before you became a guard? Like, I can't remember
No,
the date on that.
that was, yeah, it was well after I was gone.
Okay, I couldn't remember. So when you were there, the Vietnam remains were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did
even in the 2000s when that happened.
Okay. I did a ton of reading on that, and you read so much, and I don't have great retention, so I read things 3 or 4 times to really get, but you nailed it out of the park for the most part. Yeah, the younger was the guy's name, obviously World War One, and I think he had 4 caskets. They all looked exactly the same with flags draped on them, so there was no identifying of, or I should say, markings that were unique to each casket. They always have this, and it's just some kind of a feeling the person gets when they walk around and they just pick one, And
I think with World War One, I think there's a ray of light coming through the cathedral window or something where he was at.
Oh, okay.
Something. I think that's the one with that one.
So yeah, it was very interesting reading on that. So basically, there's the remains of what now is 3 individuals because Vietnam is empty and they decided not to put anything in there. And given the way things are, like you said, with technology, I don't imagine they would ever probably do anything else at the tomb to add to it because it's almost certainly have the ability to identify, but wars aren't what they used to be, blah, 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 so who knows? Honestly, let's hope they never have to, or have the opportunity, I should say. That would mean that another pretty bloody war would have happened. So, I know I mentioned to you, and I wanted to bring it up just a little bit about the book called The Unknowns. That I heard about it on 55 KRC morning show with can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. The Cincinnati. He was talking to the author of the book, and it's a book about the gentlemen that were the pallbearers of the casket that they brought from France to the United States of the one he selected. Those individuals were not just randomly selected. There's meaning from their service and who they are and all the things they did. So it's a very interesting book, So I have not finished it yet because I am a very slow reader. Mainly, what happens is when I start reading, I fall asleep. It's kind of a condition I have. I think it started in church, but anyway, we're about 47 minutes since. That's a decent time, not too bad. Any closing thoughts or things you would like people to know about? I mean, obviously, I would highly recommend to anybody that is going to be around that area to go see the tomb. It just is a very interesting. I've never been down there myself. I have been to DC, but I did not get to see the tomb. I blame my mom and dad for that. God rest their souls. So, anyways, just closing remarks from you.
I mean, there's so much history behind it. Even the tomb itself. There's on each side there's wreaths, 6 wreaths, which I think they're named after, represent the different battlefields in Europe. The significance, they're upside down to represent mourning. There's like the berries on them. I mean, there's so much significance around so many things with just what's on the tomb itself. The figures, peace, victory, and valor, what they're holding. There's so much behind all that it's I mean, if you like your history, like I don't retain a lot. I like reading history, and I was that's interesting.
Sure.
Can't remember it to tell you a week later, but at one point, oh yeah. So yeah, there's just the one thing I think that's funny is this. I've seen this come out maybe for first time. It's probably 20 years ago. It said it was like sort of as a Jeopardy question, whether that is true, I don't know about. I think it's something about how many steps that the guard takes, and then it goes into this whole thing about it's basically sounding like we're studying for the priesthood. We don't drink, don't smoke, kind of thing, and don't cuss and don't swear for the rest of our lives. I'm like, when I was in, it's 19, 20, 21-year-old guys from home for the first time. We weren't studying to be saints. You played hard. You worked hard.
Sure.
You're serious about your job, but you were also glad to have fun too. So it wasn't like seminary kind of thing. So
I did see on Facebook, amongst all the other places you can get bad information, that somebody had something posted about that, and it said that they vow to never drink alcohol for the rest of their entire lives. And my first thought was, well, I've seen some pictures that Dan showed me, and so, but I left it at that, because I was like, I don't know if that's maybe that's all underground or whatever, but so. But obviously, yeah, that does not quite fit the bill for what's going on. So yeah, that makes sense that that's not necessarily the deal and all that. So I'm glad you brought that up. So
yeah, about the shift, like at the time we were there, because there's 3 reliefs. First relief would tend to be your taller guys, on down to third relief tend to be the shorters, because you want everybody within a close proximity of height and such. So you worked a 24-hour shift. I think when I started, we came down. We usually got there like 6 a.m, worked to 6 the following morning. There's bunk rooms in there, so you could sleep at night, as well as just a kitchen. Food was brought down from Fort Myer for us to eat and all that kind of stuff. So there's, the bachelors had a TV. They could go watch TV, but if you were a new guy, you weren't allowed to talk unless, speak unless spoken to.
Okay.
So you kind of, you talked amongst your new guys selves, but you didn't talk unless somebody asked you a question or that sort of thing.
Right.
Night missions in a way to learn where people are buried in the cemetery. At night, you would be given a few night missions. So you'd have to run through the cemetery at night, making sure Arlington security doesn't see you. And you just take like a crayon and a piece of paper and do the rubbing. So I was trying to look for my book. I have like a notebook of stuff that you would do the etchings across, the front of the headstones or the different memorials as proof of you being there.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat thing. And for being a cemetery, you'd think it'd be creepy running around at night. I never got that feeling. It was just so peaceful there, and you just had to be careful in the Civil War era, because there's some graves that were kind of caving in, so you didn't want to go falling into something. But
there you go.
That was a fun aspect of being down there at night and doing that sort of thing.
Sure.
I think later on at different points, they shifted how they did the rotation. Sometimes it was I think referred to as a fireman's schedule, where kind of you almost work 2 days back to back, and then you're off a day or off of 48 hours or something. So, but my time was just a straight 3-day rotation. Now, where I got the short end of the stick was my first Christmas there. I was on duty over New Year's Eve. So I was like, so I took the 11 to 1 o'clock shift. So I was on duty at the New Year's going into 1988. Well, over that next year, they decided to switch when we reported. So we came in 6 in the evening, or that evening, 6, depending on the time of year, and worked the next day. Well, that put our shift, our relief on. I was on second relief. Put our relief on New Year's Eve again in 1988. By that point, I was a bachelor. I'm like, well, if I'm going to be here, if I'm stuck here for New Year's, I'm going to be the one on guard from 11 to 1. So my relief commander, Sergeant Davis, at the time, at midnight, he brought up a 2-liter of soda and some chips, and we celebrated the New Year that way.
Now, they probably have it somewhere in there near where you are shooting off fireworks at midnight, no? For the New Year? Like a lot of cities do? Was there celebrations in D.C.? Okay, so you probably could see that from somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. I do remember a story, and I don't remember much of it. That's why I'll ask, that your family got to come down, and it was something to do with Reagan was doing something, and you were part of the honor guard that was doing for whatever it was. I don't know if it was a holiday or something else. Do you recall what that is?
Well, I know because I was there when Reagan did a wreath ceremony. I think it was Memorial Day. I think that's when Mom, Dad, and Neil came down.
Okay.
I think they also came out for the Bush Quayle inauguration. They had us being ushers and stuff for that inauguration.
Okay.
I think you might have come out for that as well.
Okay, so I'm probably one of them too. So neat, very neat. So you got to do honor guard duties for the actual inauguration of a president, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So what you were just? Did you say they were ushers, or did you? What are the duties that you have to do, or anything?
I think it ended up to mostly just standing around looking good.
Hey, nothing wrong with
I
that.
remember it was being January. It was cold. We weren't allowed. We actually were in our dress greens. We weren't in our dress blue uniforms. They wanted us in our standard Army uniform, so we had our green, older green uniforms on, because they wanted our uniforms more showing that we weren't allowed to wear overcoats.
Okay.
And it was a particularly cold January morning, so I was like, okay. So,
Super windy, I'm sure. So.
yeah. And then at that time, at 20 years old, I didn't know a lot of politicians. So any people that I saw that were of significance, I probably could care less.
Sure.
Seeing that.
All right. I'm out of questions for this. Anything else that you want to add for it at all, or? Yeah, I think I gave you all my questions. So, here we go.
Picture me there.
That
was actually before I got my badge, because my badge has been it's the right pocket where that goes.
Okay.
So that's before.
Your video went a little bad for a little bit, but hopefully it comes back here in a second.
Oh.
Yeah. Hold that up a little bit again, just in case it comes clear. I would have never known that was you, man. Wow.
Isn't he handsome?
Oh yeah.
Actually, here's a formal picture I did at some point. So you can see right there's the badge.
Okay.
Try to line up without seeing the.
Right.
So.
Good stuff.
Nice blonde kind of hair there, bleached it out a little bit.
The 80s, baby. Well, we all had hair. Yeah, we'll have to have get into that. So, excellent. Well, Dan, I again, man, I really appreciate it. I've known you a long time. We go way back to sleeping in the summers in the 2-story clubhouse, greatest clubhouse ever built. Can't believe that people who bought that house tore it down, but that's another show. But yeah, so a lot of good times, and you opened this up to me when you came home. I didn't know anything about it, and I think it's great, and I've loved learning a lot about it, and I appreciate you coming on and doing the show so people can learn more. I encourage people, if you get down there, excellent. If you don't feel like going to DC, I'm not going to blame you on that one either. But read about it. There's so many great videos on YouTube, as well as information and wiki and stuff that you can read about it, and it's incredibly interesting. And I would imagine, it's a double-sided, it's you're an honor guard, but it's an honor to serve in that capacity. It's an honor to serve in every capacity for sure. So I really appreciate your service. Your family has a long history of service, there's no doubt. More than everybody, you look just like your dad, man. Which is a complete compliment, man. Ron was a great man. Second dad to me, no doubt about it. So I appreciate it. There's a girl named Peggy. I don't know if you know who Peggy is. She's watching. Okay, and then of course I'm not sure. Do you know who this is? Robin Witherell. I'm not sure if you know who she is or not. So I appreciate it, buddy. And again, Michelle, thanks for watching, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And Dan, I appreciate it and appreciate your service. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Vlad.
Okay, so that's it for this. Tune in Monday night, 7:00 for the big college football national championship show. Ohio State fan, me, Randy, Bama fan. We've been doing it all year, and what do you know? Both teams are in it, so it's going to be a heck of a show. We're going to have a lot of fun. Until then, we'll just keep on doing it. Thanks for tuning in, and this has been Interesting People on the Fletch Entertainment Network.